Hi, today we're going to be talking about different Bibles and different Christian traditions. The question was asked of us, why do other Christian traditions have a different Bible than other Christian traditions? And so I'm going to take a look at the three main Christian expressions, if you will, around the world. There would be the Protestant, that would include all denominations like Methodism, Lutheranism, Presbyterianism, Reformed tradition, Evangelical Free, of which we are. So there's Protestantism, there's Roman Catholic, and then there's Eastern Orthodox. And under Eastern Orthodox, there's all kinds of Eastern traditions, such as Coptic, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Slavic Orthodox, and so forth. So three main categories: Protestant, Roman Catholic, and Eastern Orthodox. The question of why do each of those three main expressions of Christianity have different Bibles really revolves around the question of the Septuagint, of which I have a copy right here. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Hebrew. And the Greek translation of the Hebrew was probably established around 200 BC, so about 200 years before the time of Christ. Many Jews living in Alexandria, Egypt, were speaking Greek. Greek was the language of the world at that time, and they had lost their affinity with Hebrew, so they requested a translation of their Hebrew into Greek. That Greek translation became known as the Septuagint. Well, over time, the Septuagint became very influential in the Mediterranean area, and in particular with the early church. So the early church, for its first 400 years, used that Septuagint, that Greek translation of the Hebrew, as their Old Testament instead of the Hebrew. And the Septuagint included, for some reason of which we don't know why, included more books than that were found in the Hebrew translation. So books like Sirach, Wisdom of Solomon, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, and so forth. Those were found in the Septuagint, even though those didn't exist in the Hebrew from which the Septuagint was translated, so far as we can tell. Well, as Christian traditions grew, they tended to use the Septuagint as their Old Testament and therefore had more books in them. At a certain point, a man named Jerome in the 5th century translated the Old Testament into Latin in a book called the Vulgate, which became the book for Roman Catholic traditions, eventually be Roman Catholic traditions, but all of Western traditions. And in that Vulgate, those extra books that were found in the Septuagint were actually separated and made distinct from the books that were found in the Hebrew. Meanwhile, all of the Eastern traditions, the Greek Orthodox, Slavic Orthodox, and so forth, all those Orthodox traditions continued to use the Septuagint in its entirety as their Old Testament. Around the time of the Reformation, now we're talking about Martin Luther, so this is in the first part of the 16th century, there was a move within Protestantism to remove those extra books that were found in the Septuagint, because the argument was, since those books weren't found in the Hebrew Bible, we shouldn't consider them authoritative. So starting from the Reformation, we've had basically three different Old Testaments. All the New Testaments in these three expressions are the same, but the Old Testaments are the ones that are different, and that's why we would suggest, or we might even articulate, three different expressions have three different Bibles. It's really because their Old Testaments are a little different. So, in closing, the Protestant Old Testament is the exact replication of the Hebrew, 39 books. The Roman Catholic Old Testament includes many of the books that were found in the Septuagint but not found in the Hebrew. So they have a larger, if you will, Old Testament than the Protestant tradition does. And the Eastern Orthodox traditions have a few more books in their Old Testament than even the Roman Catholic traditions. And there are some differences among some of the Eastern Orthodox traditions. And so that's why the three great expressions of Christianity have basically three different Old Testaments, three different Bibles. The New Testaments are all the same, so the witness to Jesus Christ is identical throughout. It's the Old Testaments that differ, and they have obviously major significance on how we interpret and understand Christian history. But for now, that's all we can say. That's the main reason. all three of these traditions are different, it's because of this book called the Septuagint, which came into existence in about 200 BC. Thank you, and God bless you.